Hello, everyone. This is Michael Feeley, and welcome to another one of my esoteric videos, which is going to be one of many, a long series over the next couple of months. Now, today's video is going to be about the Annunaki, which was really made, probably most famous by the late author Zecharia Sitchin, who was a world best-selling author that came up with this translation of the ancient Sumerian scrolls that he said was about 4,500 years old. And part of that translation was about this extraterrestrial race that came from somewhere in the universe, saying that the Annunaki means those who from heaven to earth came. And they came down to Earth to mine for gold for the dwindling atmosphere on their planet. And this, again, is quite popular within the UFO community, extremely popular throughout the world. But then, of course, there is another translation to that story. Now, this evening, I'm not going to go into every detail. I've written, quite an in-depth ebook on the subject on my website. So I'm just going to give you an introduction into this story and my translation. Now, I don't need convincing of extraterrestrial existence. I've seen a multitude of craft day and night, all different shapes and sizes. I've even seen craft coming out of wormholes in the sky. I've come face to face with beings not of this world. So I don't need convincing of a otherworldly presence on planet Earth. We can see it all over the ancient world where it's been documented. But these Annunaki went to extremely great lengths if the Zecharia Sitchin translation is true. Now, I don't think it is, because the whole of the ancient world had access to the same knowledge base. Now, the whole of the ancient world were giving us the same message. They were telling us the same message. And that really is of higher human potential. That's what the Egyptians were talking about in their pyramids, the builders of Stonehenge, the Nazca lines, crop circles, the pyramids around the world, the Eds of Easter Island. All of the ancient cultures were telling us the same message, so they had access to the same knowledge base. Now, when you have looked into each and every civilization of the ancient world, as I have done, and even biblical scripture, another religious scripture, which is exactly the same message, when you look throughout the world and you look at this blueprint, this ancient code that I found, you will see that they're all telling us the same message. The only thing that ever changed was the name of the gods or the shape of their particular monuments, whether it be a crystalline monolith or a pyramid or whatever shape. It was the same message from the same knowledge base. Now, the whole of the ancient world, including biblical scripture, are talking in parables or pictorial messages, pictographs. Now, a parable is really a story that hides a spiritual lesson. What has happened is people have concentrated on the story and believed the story, and they've completely missed the spiritual lesson that was there to tell us about our own higher potential. Now, the Annunaki story is one small droplet in a large ancient ocean, but it's an important droplet because, again, it tells us the same story. So, as I said at the beginning, Zecharia Sitchin, and to his credit, many other universities as well, have translated the Sumerian scrolls and given the same interpretation. Now, the problem with the interpretation that they've all come up with is the same as the interpretation that the parishioners of church have come up with in the Bible. It is a literal story, and they've completely missed the lesson of the parable. Now, with the Annunaki, that is no different. It's really telling us in a pictorial fashion about the higher human potential, our higher consciousness, our higher level of understanding, which is what we are naturally moving into with genetic change. And that is really what the whole of the Annunaki Sumerian scrolls was telling us. So I'm just going to go sort of briefly and very shallow into the main characters of the Annunaki and the story, and tell you how they were telling us of a different thing to what Zecharia Sitchin and others have transcribed. So again, when we look at the word Annunaki, we are told that it means those who from heaven to earth came. Of course, in the Sumerian language, that is the interpretation of what it means. But there are also other translations of the meaning of the word, which I'll get onto in just a moment. Now, we're told scientifically that in 1953, scientists Crick and Watson discovered the double helix of human DNA. This is completely wrong, because the writers of the Sumerian scrolls and the writers of the Bible knew about genetics. Even the Egyptians knew about genetics and advanced genetics thousands of years ago. So it wasn't discovered by modern science in 1953. When we look at the Bible, when we look at the chapter, Genesis, the book of Genesis is really a code for the book of genetics. So many thousands of years ago, they knew about genetics. So Crick and Watson didn't actually discover DNA double helix in 1953. So when we look at this Annunaki story, again, it is of human higher potential, a higher form of human through a genetic or DNA potential. And that is really what the Annunaki story is telling us in a coded form. It is a parable, it is a spiritual lesson sort of hidden within a story. Now, it's up for us to actually understand that or not. And that is the same throughout the ancient world. All of these cryptic messages are there for us to find. We have to find them because they're written in a metaphor. And so the Annunaki. Now, another interpretation of the word Annunaki with earlier languages such as Sanskrit, which is one of the earliest known languages in the world. Now, when I talk about DNA, verbal languages that are spoken on Earth are really a reflection and expression of inherent DNA. So it's a genetic language that we are actually speaking. And that again it falls in with the Annunaki and all that kind of story as well. So the Annunaki, when you break it down into earlier languages, Anu is really an atom. In Sanskrit, Anu means atom. Ironically, Anu is the chief god of the Annunaki. It means atom, atomic, or life. When you look at Naki, it means God or one who possesses heaven. Now, heaven is simply the sky, or within the body, it's a higher consciousness, the upper chakras of the body. So when you actually look at the word Annunaki in earlier languages, such as Sanskrit, it means life from heaven. Now, that then gets into the scientific branch known as panspermia, which is where the seed of life is created elsewhere, and it just so happens to become inhabitants of certain star systems. And that is why we have Palladians in humanoid form, Sirians, we do have reptilians, we have Orions, we have all of these different seeds of different chemical elements, so they have a different appearance. That is panspermia. So that is really the Annunaki, that is the life from heaven. Now, DNA, human DNA, is a living data storage that contain the instructions for greater potential. Now, humans are a 3 billion letter code. That doesn't include what science calls junk DNA. Now, it's not junk DNA, it's there for a reason. It's a protein-based language that is yet to be activated. So, in addition to the 3 billion letter coded language that we have inside of us, which is the recognized DNA, we also have a junk DNA, which is a protein-based language that will at some point be activated. The language, as I just said, that we speak as human beings, the verbal language, the words that we use, are a reflection of genetic languages. It is a language. It is a sentence. It is a form of communication. Same as the hieroglyphs, same as cuneiform. They are a vibrational language. That is what they were there for. That is the pictorial messages that were being given. So, again, when you look at the characters of the Annunaki story, Anu, the chief god of the Annunaki, means atom in Sanskrit. So again, atom, we're going into genetics, we're going into DNA. They are telling us about how to achieve a higher type of human. When we look at the likes of Enki and Enlil, Enki and Enlil are known as the Shetty, the snake brothers. Now, this is where we go back to disproving modern science of 1953 discovery of double helix. because Enki and Enlil, the Shetty, the snake brothers, are really the double helix of DNA, which give the appearance of a snake, of two winding serpents. Now, this double helix of DNA are the positive and negative polarities of human consciousness. Now, when you look at the Annunaki story, you will see that Enki was positive and Enlil was negative. So that is the positive and negative polarity of human consciousness within DNA. Now, even when we look at ancient staircases and spirals, they are really reflecting, the spiral staircase is reflecting the helix of DNA. So that is what they're really telling us. Now, another character of the Annunaki is a character named Alalu. Now, Alalu was meant to be the supervisor that was supervising the expedition of the gold that was mined from Earth. Now, bear in mind, these extraterrestrials meant to have come to Earth, meant to have brought the moon with them, meant to have done this orbit on their planet Nibiru, which I'll go into in just a moment. And when they came to Earth, they discovered life, which they, according again to the Zecharia Sitchin version of history, they tinkered with human DNA and created the modern human. Now, Alalu was the supervisor of this slave race and the transportation of gold. Now, Alalu, who is also meant to be the famous face on Mars, this is meant to be his image according to the Sitchin translation. Alalu really means wave genetics or genetic waves and nucleotides. So again, we are going straight back to genetics and how genetics are created by a wave form. That is Alalu. So Alalu is also genetics. Now, this human slave race were known as the Lulu, Lulu, which is really a shortened version of lutetium, which is really the hydrogen bonding, again, which is all to do with DNA double helix. The double helix of human DNA is held together by hydrogen bonding, which is the lutetium, which is the Lulu, which again is another aspect of that story. So we're also told, sometimes we see that the Annunaki are known as the serpents. Now, the serpent is really symbolic and code form for the god within. It is really a symbol and a metaphor for the wise adepts, the serpent masters. And these were really the initiates of the mystery schools of Egypt, known as the serpents on two legs, because the serpent is seen as wisdom. It is seen as the Kundalini awakening. It is seen throughout the ancient world as wisdom. So it's really a story of enlightenment through the serpent. Now, the Annunaki are sometimes known as the Watchers. Now, Watcher gives us the modern day phrase, or certainly biblical phrase, of a bishop. Bishop comes from the same root word as watcher. Now, watcher simply means awake, or he who is awake. So again, we're talking about a higher consciousness, a higher awareness, a mystical awareness of truth, which the Annunaki story is telling us. There's also a race of giants who we're told about, known as the Nephilim. Now, Nephilim comes from the word Nephal, which means to fall short. Now, to fall short then gets us into the realm of biblical sin, which is really to fall short. When ancient archers used to miss the bullseye, that was known as sin, because they were missing the mark. They were missing the bullseye. The bullseye is also your third eye, your enlightenment, your cosmic sight that takes you beyond the limitations of the five senses. So the Nephilim falling short, missing the mark, again, is talking about missing the mark of consciousness, which is original sin of the Bible. Really, we then start going into other aspects of the story and pictorial messages, such as this famous handbag that many ancient depictions, not only Sumerians, but you see them all over the world, where you see these strange looking creatures carrying what can only be described really as a modern day handbag. So again, what is that telling us? It is telling us the same. It is telling us of a higher than human condition of transcending this into a higher form of human. Now, the arch of the handbag, the 180-degree arch, is really a higher unity. It is a bridge or a gateway to beyond the four, the material realm. Now, the reason you see many Egyptian statues sitting on a cube throne is because the cube represents the number 4, which is the 4 elements, etc. It represents the material realm. Now, in order to transcend to the 5th element, the pentagram, you need to master the 4 elements. It's mastery of the 4, the material realm. So really the archway is transcending beyond the 4. Now the bottom of the ambag, which is the square, the cube, the illusion of the square, the illusion of the cube, of the imposition of structure. The arch is taken us beyond the 4, and that is really what the handbag is telling us. It's telling us how to transcend beyond the material realm of the 4. It's telling us of that higher than human condition, the bridgeway and the gateway, the arch to another place, to another world. We also see the same depictions where they're holding on to the likes of a pine cone, which pine cone gives us the word pineal. It is the pineal gland, and these creatures are often seen with wings. Now the wings are again really the hemispheres of the brain. The pineal gland is situated between the 2 hemispheres of the brain, but wings again tell us of a higher than human condition. They tell us of flight. They tell us of how to transcend. So again, it's talking about consciousness, a higher type of human. Now let's just deal with Nibiru. And many people that I speak to and hear having conversations are really, really fearful of this planet X, this planet Nibiru, that is meant to do a 3,600 year circuit and orbit. And people are really, really scared and frightened that this Nibiru is returning and returning soon. Nibiru, as in the Zechariah Sitchin translation, doesn't exist in the way in which it has been portrayed. Now, Nibiru simply means wandering planet. Now, Nibiru is what the Egyptians call Neb-Heru, which is Venus, the planet Venus, which is a wandering planet. Every 8 years, Venus does a trajectory that mimics the shape of a pentagram. It is a wandering planet. So we have Nibiru, which means wandering planet, and we have Neb-Heru, which is very, very close to Nibiru, which is Venus, which is a wandering planet. Now, the significance of Venus is that the Sumerian scrolls have actually said that the home planet of the Annunaki was Duku, D-U-K-U, which really means the sacred mound. It's talking about the Mons Veronis, which is the pubic mound. Now, the planet Venus in Sanskrit, again, an early Earth language, means Shukra. The word for planet Venus is Shukra. Now, Shukra means seminal secretion. We're then getting into the likes of Enki, who was associated with semen. We're then getting into the fertility events. We're then getting into the amalgamation of masculine and feminine and the creation of life. We're then getting into the biblical Noah's Ark, which is really the creation of life. Now, the 2x2 of Noah's Ark is really the base pairs of DNA nucleotides that exist 2x2. They exist in pairs. So again, it's talking of a genetic story. So planet Nibiru is not going to come back, and it's not going to come back to mine for gold after 3,600 years of an orbit, because the 3,600 is really the date in time when the Egyptian alchemists and the Egyptian metalsmiths first mined for gold, which was in something like 3,600 BC or something. It correlates to the same year, to the same orbit of Nibiru. So Nibiru is really Neb-Heru, the planet Venus, which takes us into seminal secretion, takes us into Enki, takes us into Jesus Christ, who incidentally we are told was an incarnation of Enki. He wasn't, because none of them exist. But this is how the story has been mistranslated. Now, again, another aspect of the story, and sort of the final aspect of the story that I'm going to go into on this YouTube video. As I said at the beginning, I've done sort of an in-depth sort of ebook, which is on my website, where you can actually read more in depth about the story. I'm sort of just touching the surface, really. But we're told in Zechariah Sitchin version that The Annunaki brought with them the moon when they came to Earth. They brought it across the heavens, they brought it across the universe and the solar system to sit where it currently sits, which is Earth's satellite. Now, this, according to the translation, or the official translation, happened 450,000 years ago. Now, there are tidal rhythmites on planet Earth, which are basically evidence and scars of lunar movement on crustacean, on seabeds. They're called tidal rhythmites, and they've been dated to 2.2 billion years old. So the Annunaki bringing the moon with them 450,000 years ago goes against science of tidal rhythmites, which have proven that the moon was in its current position at least 2.2 billion years ago. That doesn't equate. When you start seeing that parts of the story don't make sense or they're not true, then you have to bring into question the whole of the story. So another thing as well is, as part of the translation, when the Annunaki arrived on Earth, they found life. Now, as with the sun, without the moon, there is no life on Earth. So the Annunaki could not have found life on Earth if they brought the moon with them. And for this reason, the moon is a planetary stabilizer. It keeps Earth at a 23.5 degree tilt. That 23.5 degree tilt gives us the 4 seasons. It gives us a planetary warmth that sustains life. It makes the oceans a liquid, and it basically allows life to exist on planet Earth. So without the moon, there is no life on Earth. So the Annunaki, if they brought the moon with them, it would have been impossible to have found a higher form of life on Earth. But it just doesn't make sense scientifically. And also, the Homo erectus, which was ancient man, the female Homo erectus had menstrual cycles. Menstrual cycles are part of the moon's cycle. So therefore, again, as part of fertility, females have this menstrual cycle. The moon, it locks into the moon, which is highly significant in these menstrual fertility cycles. So again, that is another reason that the moon wasn't bought. Now, the Earth and the moon have the same isotopes, which are chemical sort of elements. Now, when the Earth and the moon having the same isotopes, the same chemical elements, means is that they originated the same distance away from the sun. So therefore, the moon was not bought from a distant place and put where it was. I'm not disputing the fact that the moon may have been found where it is, and it may have been adapted to serve certain purposes, but it was certainly not bought by the Annunaki of Nibiru, who came to mine for gold. When a supernova explodes, that is when gold is created. Now, every piece of gold that has been found on Earth so far in its entire history would be enough to fill 3 swimming pools. Now, would that be enough to repair the atmosphere of a gigantic planet? No. Now, again, they've gone to some length to come all this way to bring the moon, to tinker with human DNA, to create a slave race to mine for gold for them. Why didn't they just capture an asteroid such as Eros? Now, Eros as an asteroid has more gold within that asteroid that has ever been found on Earth. It would have been so much easier just to trap an asteroid and take the gold from an asteroid rather than come to Earth and create this complete new species to mine for gold as a slave race. The story is not how it's been transcribed or translated. The whole of the ancient world are telling us about higher human potential. When you look at the Great Pyramid of Egypt, you're looking at alchemical ascension, the Philosopher's Stone. When we look at the likes of the Heads of Easter Island, again, they're talking about the divine mind, the divine head. When you start looking at biblical scripture and you start looking at biblical characters, they're really talking about, again, this alchemical ascension to your Philosopher's Stone. All of these subjects I will be covering in the next weeks, in the next months. I will take each individual subject and I will go into its esoteric level as to what it really means, because it's not what it's been portrayed at. Whether it's religion, whether it's ancient monuments, whatever it is, we are not being told the truth. There is a deeper meaning that is being hidden from us. So again, thank you very much for watching this 25-minute video. There will be many more over the coming months, where I will take in aspects of the ancient world, an ancient code, a blueprint that I found, and I will be analysing each of the aspects. At the end of it, it will all tie together as one, because as I said at the beginning of the video, the ancients had access to the same knowledge base that extended beyond planet Earth, but they had the same knowledge base. Now, every single quarter of this world, every single ancient civilization that I've looked into, which is all of them, all of the famous cultures of the ancient world, through to the modern day, because the same ethos exists within secret societies, within brand and company logos. It's all telling us the same thing, which is the esoteric potential of the condition that is human, and how we escape the condition that is human, which again is throughout the ancient world. So I'll be taking each of these subjects, and I'll be going into some depth into what they actually mean. So thank you very much for watching this evening. I hope it's been of some use to you. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel to make sure you don't miss any more of my videos. I hope they'll be extremely useful. I am doing a talking tour of the UK at the moment, and you can also speak to me via my website, which is www.michael-feeley.com. So thank you again. I hope to see you very soon. Have a great evening or day wherever you are. And again, thank you for your attention and thank you for watching.